What was in this is valued at over $300. I paid $6.59. Hey there, welcome back. If we haven't met yet, my name is Tiffany. I'm a Washington real estate agent who has a love for creating beautiful spaces on a budget. And one of my favorite ways to help do just that is by shopping at the Goodwill Outlet or the Goodwill bins where you pay for items by the pound. Today, I'm going to be sharing my most recent shopping trip there. I came away with quite a few Christmas items as well as some projects that I'm really excited to share with you guys. As always, in the end, I'll share exactly how much I spent. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Goodwill Outlet. If you haven't been here before, the way this works is they bring out items in these big blue bins. Every location is a little different in how they do things. At this specific location, every so often they bring out a few rows of new bins. They have people wait behind lines, and once those bins are in place, they say shop and everyone digs in. It can get a little crazy. Oftentimes, if I don't want to be in the hustle and bustle, I'll just wait until the more aggressive shoppers are done digging through the new bins, and then I go in there and I still tend to find good stuff. So if that stresses you out, you totally can just stand back and wait. Oftentimes when shopping here, I find things that I'm not really quite sure what they are, so I would love your help figuring out what some of these items are. First was this little table. I think this was an antique art easel, but I'm not really sure. So if you know what this is, I'd love to hear from you. Next was this little box. It looked like it was probably homemade, but the inside of it was curved. I was just curious if any of you know what the purpose of that was. And last was this round wooden piece. I've seen these before here and I've actually bought them. I assumed it was for a cloche or a domed lid, but I'm really confused by the little dots on the outer edges of this. I've seen this several times, so if you know what this is, I'd love to hear from you. As I'm digging through these bins, I'm trying to look at items not as what they are, but as what they could be. So if you're trying to decorate on a budget, if you can learn to see potential in items, it's going to really help when you're shopping at the Goodwill Outlet. And if you don't consider yourself a skilled DIYer, it's okay. That is the beauty of shopping at the Goodwill Outlet. If something doesn't turn out great, you didn't spend much on it, so it's not a huge loss. So I did not buy this, but it is brand new, still in the box. So I'm curious, is this something you would buy as a gift for someone, or do you feel like that's tacky to pick up gifts at the Goodwill Outlet? Now I'm over in the furniture section at our store. They have the bins on one side where items are priced by weight. And then we have another side where they have larger items like furniture, lamps, heavier, larger items, and these are priced individually. My first project of the day was this table, and it was extremely rickety. It was pretty rough, but I loved that it was solid oak and those legs were so cool. So I wanted to see what I could do with this. I first started by disassembling this table, and it came apart quite easily. I tried to repair this with wood glue and clamps. Unfortunately, that didn't work. When I would clamp one section, it would end up cracking another. So I could either scrap this project or just embrace this more rustic look and go with it. So that's what I decided to do. Here I'm using some wood filler to fill those gaps. Just make sure that your wood filler is stainable and paintable. And as I'm applying that wood filler, I'm trying to make sure that I'm really working it into that groove there. Sometimes I get ahead of myself and I skip a step. I did not seal this, so I ended up with some tannins or those yellow tones bleeding through that paint. So here's how I corrected it. Shellac is a great way to seal your piece and keep those tannins from bleeding through. I think this is such a fun, unique piece. It's sitting in my office and I love it. After taking that table apart, I had these pieces left over. I picked up these taper candle holders this day and I had an idea. First, I needed to get that gunk and wax out of the base there. So I'm going to be using one of my go-to tools here, a dinner knife. I knew these weren't going to turn out perfect, so I decided to embrace a little bit more of a rustic look with these. So I decided to use chalk paint and a chip brush to create some added texture to this. I then distressed just the metal pieces there. I normally would distress the wood as well, but because of the tendencies of those tannins to bleed through, I just left the wood as is and distressed the detailing on the metal pieces. Next, I picked up this wood sign and I didn't even read it. I just saw the size and shape and picked it up. Here I decided to attempt removing that mark on the back. So I took some 100% pure acetone. If you're gonna do this, you really do have to work quickly. If I left that on there too long, it would remove that paint. We had some scrap utility board from another project. Here I have set the saw at a slight angle, cut my wood at that angle, flipping my board each time to make these little triangles. Once those were all cut out, I went over them with the sanding block to smooth out those edges. And here you can get creative. You could do all of these in green, or you can do like I did and just use some miscellaneous paints that you have and coordinate them to the color scheme in your home. I decided to do a wash on these. So I took my paint and watered it down, brushed it on there, and then wiped it off. And here I'm attaching these with wood glue. Titebond has a couple different types. This one here is the original, and this one is intended for interior use, and this dries a little bit quicker than some of the other ones. The Titebond Ultimate is a little bit stronger. It is water resistant, so it's appropriate for indoor and outdoor use, and it has a longer assembly time. So if you think you might need to make adjustments and you're okay with a longer clamp time, then that may be a better option for you. Then on the other side of this sign, if you've been following me for a while, you may remember that I picked up this wallpaper at the Goodwill Outlet a while back. I've been waiting for an opportunity to use it, and this was it. Here I took some Mod Podge and brushed that on. Once I had applied that, I realized most likely that wallpaper was pre-pasted, and once I got it wet, sure enough, it was. So this will be really well adhered. I then took some more of that scrap wood and cut it into strips and created a frame for this. Here Here I'm using my battery operated pin nailer. I've had a couple of you ask about this, so I'll have this linked down in the description below if you want to go check it out. One thing I love about these pin nailers, you can barely see that nail there. I liked the size and shape of this tin here, so I decided to give it a little makeover. When I found this blanket mixed in with the clothes, I could tell it was really nice quality. And when I got home, I noticed the tag on it. It was definitely worth the $1.99 I paid for it. And when I got this home, I flipped this over and saw that it was originally from Anthropology. It did need some cleanup. After doing some research, I decided to use a mixture of vinegar and water. Then once that had fully dried, I mixed up some bleach and water and cleaned it with that. At that point, I felt confident that it was good and clean, but it was still looking a little worn out, so I decided to mix up some paint. Here I'm using natural twine and rugged tan and just mixing those up and adding a little bit of water. Because I had had such great success with that acetone with the previous project, I decided to see if it would again remove this design. Unfortunately, this time it didn't work quite so well. So on to plan B, I noticed that there were little screws on the bottom of this, so I was thinking that I could just remove it and flip that part. But when I went to do that, I was having a really hard time getting those screws out. So I moved on to plan C, and here I'm using some citrus strip to remove the finish. I love that this white wax not only protects your piece, but also really highlights that wood grain. Next, I picked up this glass vase, and it's very nice as is, but I wanted to see if I could modernize it a little bit. I think this turned out great. It does remind me a little bit of a golf ball, so I may paint it in a different color, but I do think this is a great way to transform a textured vase. Here I'm testing a few different products. I'm going to be using this for decorative purposes, so my main goal here is to get the end look that I want. This walrus oil is intended for food prep surfaces, whereas this white wax is not. Ultimately, I decided to go with the white wax on this piece, but I will have both of these products linked for you if you want to go check them out. I thought this was really cute, but it did have a damaged handle, so I decided to glue this with some E6000. Now, I love E6000. I think it works great, but I do not love the packaging. I've had a lot of problems with that kind of metal tube cracking and leaking. So if you have a similar product that you recommend I try, or if they make a different packaging that you're aware of, I'd love to hear about it. I also picked up these gold branches this day, as well as this real feel garland. I thought this knit pillow cover would be a great way to make our space feel a little extra cozy this winter. This season, I've been seeing bells everywhere, particularly ones that look antique or vintage. So when I found this copper cup, I decided to see if I could create a bit of a dupe. And to make it function as a bell, I'm adding this wood bead inside. When I found these oversized ornaments, I was excited to make them over. I ended up digging through the bins looking for materials that I could use to transform these. Here's what I came home with, and I just started experimenting. And here I'm using an early Christmas present from my husband. He got me this battery operated glue gun, and it's so nice not to have to mess with that cord. So if you craft a lot and want to add this to your wish list, I'll have this linked for you so you can go check it out. You may remember this project from before, but my 5-year-old has been requesting that we make more cinnamon covered ornaments. She loves to sit by the tree and smell them, and they really do smell great. Last time I did this with black paint. Here I decided to use some gray. You really could use any paint for this, and I'm mixing it with some baking soda to add some texture. Before that paint had a chance to dry, I'm sprinkling it with cinnamon. Once that had fully dried, I took a dry paintbrush and sloughed off the excess. I decided instead of having some of that paint coming through, I wanted it fully covered. So I decided to take it out and douse it in this clear coat, and then I quickly brought it in and coated it in the cinnamon. In the end, it had a suede effect to it, and I opted not to seal it because I didn't want to change the look of it. Just be aware that if you don't seal it, it will shed some, but that didn't bother me. I've been thinking about purchasing some gray wood bead garland to go around our tree, but I have a hard time buying things new unless I have to. So when I spotted these, I decided to see if I could get a similar look. And I'm going to be real with you guys here. I'm not sure that I would recommend doing this. It took a long time to get full coverage. In the end, I was able to do this at a fraction of the cost of buying new. Just be aware that if you're going to do this project, it will take time and patience and quite a bit of spray paint. When I picked this up, I actually thought it was garland, but when I unwrapped it, I realized that it was 3 separate wreaths. And these were pretty basic. They didn't look very high end, so we're gonna see if we can level them up a little bit. So I just went out in my yard and found some trees and shrubs and took some clippings off of them. When I found this in the bins, it looked as though someone had tossed it back. It was super full and it was very heavy. I peeked inside and I could see some wreaths. I decided to ask them how much they would charge me for it. They ended up charging me $6.59. When I got home, I opened it up and I found these 3 large Pottery Barn bay leaf wreaths, as well as 5 matching strands of garland. I couldn't find the original price on these, but I did find smaller versions and they've been selling for $100 each used. Another great way to score some great items for your home is to shop out of season. Very few people are interested in out of season items, so this is a great time to pick those up. that's everything I picked up this trip. Now, before we get to the grand total of what I spent this day, if you enjoyed this video, would you please do me a big favor and hit that thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future videos. For all of the items in the bins, I paid $59.35. Then over on the furniture side, I picked up that wobbly oak table for $5.99. This brings my pre-tax total this day to $65.34. Check out that description box for any products or items shown in this video. And if you would like to see more like this, I'll have a playlist linked down in the description box below. I hope that you feel encouraged that you too can create beautiful spaces on a budget. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.